Right.
You know.
No, you're right. They've struggled. Now, they've had some hits. I think Prince was really good. Bruno Mars was really good. They've had some hits, but...
Some of them have been really bad, though.
Well, and the collaborations that they put together sometimes work. This did not work. Adam Levine is not meant to dance with Outkast music in the background. It's just not something he should ever do. So, and then all that together.
I heard something funny yesterday. I had to stop by at the bar, and someone goes, you'd think if you knew you had to do the halftime show and you were going to sit there and put on like a striptease, you might have wanted to do a crunch or two before you got out there. I was laughing.
Well, and I kind of was curious. I think you and Brad were the ones that pointed out to me that he dressed in layers, because every time I look up, he was dressed in less clothes. I wasn't sure it was intentional until finally he actually was naked from the waist up. I guess that's a good thing if you're a fan of Adam Levine. Apparently he's an attractive young man underneath all those 5,000 tattoos. Fantastic. That to me is really not the point. The point to me was the halftime show was disjointed. It was vulgar. And look, the show has to be family friendly. It's late at night, but this is an event that a lot of people watch with their family. We watched it at the Windsor Pub in Akron, Ohio. We had a young man who was with his family up there. That's part of the game is bringing your family to the sport, and that was not the right time and place for the show they put on.
No, and let's face it, the NFL, as much as they always try to get it right, they never do get it right. Like I said, and we both agreed on it, Florida Georgia Line and Nelly would be a hell of a halftime show, and I bet you they can keep it clean.
Yeah, I'd like to see Taylor Swift get a shot at this. I agree with you that FGL, Florida Georgia Line, is a good crossover type. But so is Taylor Swift. She could cross over.
Yeah.
I think that in this day and age, this political environment, an act like Taylor Swift has more mainstream carry than a Florida Georgia Line. One of the problems that the NFL had was getting someone to take this spot. They are in a political nightmare right now, right? They're seen as being too conservative, but then the conservatives are saying they're bending too far the other way. So they're in a tough spot, and then to me, that shouldn't be part of this, but it is. I think Taylor Swift rides that middle. But hey, Florida Georgia Line, it'll be a country or light rock event next year. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, well, they'll probably bring in like Run DMC or someone, and it is what it is. Like I said, that's when I normally get up, stretch my legs, go outside, have a smoke, whatever. Yeah. I generally don't watch the show because normally I don't like it. I mean, I normally don't care who's singing.
Well, and for the first time in a long time, people not only did not watch the show, they didn't watch the Super Bowl. The ratings were low. They were down anywhere from 5 to 10%, depending on what article you read. And I don't know that it was Patriots fatigue. You never know if people tune in and then tune out as well. So for you, what do you think the driving factor was in the ratings being down? Was it the game? Was it the commercials? Was it a combination? What do you think it was?
I think a lot of it had to do with, and you talked about it a minute ago before we came on air, New Orleans was pissed. And a lot of fans of New Orleans have a right to be mad. They should have been there. And it's not even hindsight being 2020. It would have been a better game. I mean, just no doubt about it. There's no way it could have been a worse game. I mean, you can't tell me Drew Brees is going to look like a deer in headlights. But that being said, New Orleans was going to protest that, and then there were other people that were just not going to watch because they're like, oh, it's Tom Brady again. And then you had those people that are like, oh, I'm protesting the NFL. Whatever. Protest. Be happy. I'm going to watch football.
Yeah. I was surprised at the impact that the New Orleans game had. You mentioned two lines there. One, those people who were just so mad about that they protested the game. Not New Orleans fans, but just fans of football. I think that was more than I thought it would be. And then you had the New Orleans story. I didn't think this was going to have an impact, but New Orleans had a parade or a party or some sort of gathering in downtown New Orleans, and that market particularly went from about a 50% share to a 20% share. And that had all to do with the non-call that cost them pretty much a chance to go to the Super Bowl. So good on New Orleans for standing up for your team.
Yeah, you know what? That's what fans are supposed to do when something like this happens. You're supposed to just shut the TV off, walk away, be done. That's how you make your voice heard when their ratings are down, because guess what? The Super Bowl next year can't sell their commercials for $5 million when the ratings were down 10%. They're going to have to ease back so they make it. And it's not like it's going to hurt the NFL entirely because let's make it, they print their own money. I mean, that's just how it is. But it was a good way to do it. That's why I always said I thought the Raiders should just boycott and not go.
Yeah.
You know, when no one shows up or no one turns their TV on, you don't make money.
I wonder about the commercials. You make an interesting point. The price point was $5.25 million this year for 30 seconds. There were a lot of NFL commercials in there. Sometimes that's because they can't sell the spots. This didn't seem like that. This seemed like they really wanted to get their messaging out, so they sold less spots. If that's true, then I don't think the price point moves. I think they just find their own programming if they don't have interest. That being said, I think there are going to be more eyeballs on whatever Super Bowl comes up because the ratings are going up for football right now. I just think this was a really bad mix of, again, maybe people tuned in, maybe people just hate the Patriots. The Patriots fatigue is real, and about 82% of bettors bet on the Patriots. So a lot of people thought that this was a foregone conclusion and had no reason to watch the game. I think that's part of it.
Well, and the weird thing with this game was you had one of the best NFL seasons you've had in years just because every game meant so much. Any team could beat any team at any time. Every time you turned around, we were having an upset. Look, after the first 2 weeks, me and you were talking about, we joked and you said, well, we might go on 16 this year, talking about Buffalo. Mm-hmm. And next thing you know, they win a couple big games. And you're like, where'd this come from? It just went to show you there's more parity and the games were a lot better. It also went to show you, you know, in the officiating in this game, I have no problem with the officiating in the Super Bowl, but the officiating all year long sucked in the NFL. And that does turn people off. I mean, it turned off a lot of Browns fans this year. It's like getting kicked in the nuts every time you get an apology letter. Could you imagine Sean Payton after they lost that game and Roger Goodell calls him? There's no way in hell I'm taking the phone call.
Well,
I'm sitting there going, I'm going to get fined. I'm going to cuss this guy out and hang up on him.
No, you unfortunately, you would. And I know that as a fan, we feel we wouldn't. But as a head coach of an NFL team, you would take the call and you would handle it well because that's what you need to do for your team. I agree. I'd want to rip the guy's throat out.
Yeah.
But we would all, if we're good at our job, say, you know what? And I don't think it was Roger. It was probably one of the heads of officiating. Thank you for the call. We know you effed up. I really don't want to talk to you anymore because of what I might say. Have a good night. That would be enough. And I think that's what most of us would do if we were Sean Payton, who was very good at his job, very professional, and handled it in really the best way possible.
Oh, I'd have been fined. I'd have been fined left and right. You could just start. You'd had to start a GoFundMe account for my fine.
And that's the reason that Rick Carpenter is not an NFL coach.
I can't imagine. I mean, to make the Super Bowl one is so difficult, and to just sit there and get screwed by an official not doing his job right, and then the NFL calls you to apologize and agrees they didn't do their job right. Oh, I'd be livid. I mean, the stuff that would come out of my mouth.
What about the game, again, kind of itself? Both Vegas and pretty much everybody in the world thought this would be a high-scoring game. It finished at 16 points. Why?
The defenses. I mean, and as good as Sean McVay is with his offense, if you take away the ability to do play-action pass, if you shut down the run, and they weren't even worried about the run, then all of a sudden Goff becomes to a point where he's a stand-in-the-pocket quarterback, and Goff is not a stand-in-the-pocket quarterback. He needs that play action to work off of. They did a lot of gimmick stuff this year with the play action to always have a guy, and he'd always find him wide open. And it was just one of them things where they took away the play action, and he didn't know what to do.
I agree. The play action pass was the number one weapon for the Rams. They didn't have it. But what I'll really talk about before we go to break here is the punting.
That was amazing.
New England's punter. Now, Decker from the Rams, he was an all-pro punter, and he had a Super Bowl record 65-yard punt because it rolled 30 yards.
Yeah.
But Lane, the punter for the Patriots, he pinned the Rams back over and over. I don't know exact numbers, but he had at least 2 that were inside the 10, and he may have had 3 that were inside the 15. And that giving that huge field to run, it's a mental thing. When you know you're struggling to move the ball and you've got to go 95 yards and you're already being conservative because it's a tight game, I think that played a big factor in the Patriots' success.
It did, but they never got Gurley in a rhythm. Gurley never got like 2-3 carries in a row. It was like, here, run the ball 2 times. Now go sit on the bike for about 5 minutes and we'll call you when we're ready. And they just never got him in a rhythm, and he's your most effective weapon on that football field. You've got to use him. I mean, I don't know what the game plan. Sometimes McVay gets a little pass happy. It does happen. We've seen it happen. But when he gets run happy, they dominate teams. We saw him put up 270 against Dallas. That's how you beat New England. You get that run going. And you just couldn't do it.
I hope it was Gurley was hurt and that it wasn't a true competition or true choice for using C.J. Anderson or Todd Gurley, because there's no choice there. That's why I have to think that Todd Gurley was hurt. I know that everybody has said he isn't. He did not look like himself. He had 1 or 2 really good runs, but they were not cutback runs. They were up the middle. He found a hole. I think his lateral movement was really affected. Otherwise, we would have seen more of him. He never caught a pass out of the backfield like he usually does. He just wasn't himself. And I have to think that has to do with injury, not with game plan.
Well, if he was injured, we're going to hear about it pretty soon because no one said anything yet. So that's like the best kept secret in football.
Now, to that point, he did not address the media when cleaning out his locker room, which is rare for Todd Gurley. He's usually very good with the media. He did not address, and all Sean McVay would say was he did not need surgery in the offseason. So I think there might be a little fire to the smoke there. We are Bad Friend Choices. I am John O'Donnell. We are going to take a break. We are going to be playing parts of our interview with Trevor Lane from LakersNation.com. Please listen to him there on his podcast and also join us for the interview. Call in. Our number is 330-752-2775, and we will be right back.